Welcome back, everybody, to the next episode of the Doomslayer saga, in which we have him go through multiple different fictional universes and see how things go, whether it be in terms of fights against the Doomslayer, or, in my opinion, the more interesting thing to discuss, the character interactions. And for today, we've got quite the interesting one. We have the Doomslayer going into the world of Berserk. Now, yes, this is obviously not going to be one where we're talking about fights, because let's be honest, even the collective power of the God Hand would pale in comparison to the absolute monstrosity that is the Doomslayer. He would just rip and tear through them, even someone like Griffith, like he was just a normal-ass demon. But what I really wish to talk about is his interactions with the main cast, and especially the likes of Guts. Because when you think about it, both of these characters have been through hell, pretty much both metaphorically and literally in a sense. Guts in the sense of the eclipse, and Doomslayer in the sense of literal hell. Both of these characters are also quite rough around the edges in terms of their personality. They don't tend to get along with people unless they have known them for quite a bit and basically just helped break through their tough exterior. So, via first interaction, I'm almost entirely convinced that, at the very least, Guts would think that this overwhelmingly powerful entity that he would likely be able to at least sense the presence of would be some kind of threat. And I'm not sure if he'd outright try and go for an attack, or if he'd just be extremely on guard for a while. But at the absolute very least, if they didn't try ripping each other's throats out upon first interaction, just them being in the same room with each other, that it would be such a tense environment that the air would physically become harder to breathe in. It would be like actively trying to breathe through a paper bag, trying to even be in the same presence as both of these characters at the same time. And over time, I do believe that they would at the very least work together, and if a little bit more time past that, might be able to actually get along. Because they both have similar goals. They want to get rid of all demons and apostles respectively. Which, apostles are just demons, so you get what I mean. They both want to get rid of all the demons that they ever come across. And when the Doomslayer realizes the kind of caliber and outweighed and unfair matchup that Guts is dealing with, I'm pretty sure the Doomslayer would be willing to assist Guts in his endeavor to take down the God Hand and any apostle that is too much for Guts to handle. Because yes, Guts is pretty hard-headed and stubborn when it comes to people above his weight class. He just tends not to care if he's out of his league. He'll just keep going. But having someone of a similar godly status in terms of from what he'd at the very least be able to sense, would be more inclined to listen to the Doomslayer than someone in his main group that, although he's more friendly with, aren't exactly powerful enough to stop him when he's serious. There's multiple ways I could say the Doomslayer helping in this, either by just having Guts rest while he deals with the demons that are too strong for Guts to handle. And correct me if I'm wrong, it's been a while since I've done anything relating to Doom, like the Doom games. Does Doomslayer have any way that would be able to revert the effects of what the Berserker armor's done to Guts? Because the Doomslayer has his armor. So, him seeing this armor that Guts has, and that it's pretty much a double-edged sword with more negatives than positives, do you think he'd be able to find a way to either, get rid of the armor and make sure Guts didn't have to use it? Maybe passing some of his abilities, I think the Doomslayer has some kind of mystical abilities. I think he might be able to teach even some of the basic stuff to Guts. And even if he only teaches the basic stuff that could possibly be taught to Guts, I think it might outweigh the benefits, quote-unquote, of the Berserker armor, making it to where Guts might not need it from that point onward. And honestly, depending on when the Doomslayer shows up in the series, he might not even feel the need to take the Berserker armor when it's offered. Meaning, the current state that Guts is in, due to how many times he's had to use it and how weak he is now as a result of the side effects of the armor, might not have taken effect. He might be in a significantly better condition even on his own, let alone the benefits of being with the Doomslayer. Making it to where his group would have their top dog in way better condition way later in the series, without having to rely on the wild card that is the Berserker armor. And if the group plus Doomslayer were to eventually get to the God Hand, I think the Doomslayer would deal with the rest of the God Hand members and try to let Guts deal with Griffith on his own, but always be there for backup in case Guts isn't powerful enough yet. Or if he doesn't get the chance to actually fight Griffith by himself, because he's not strong enough to do so, the Doomslayer would more than likely beat down Griffith until Guts gets the honors of dealing the finishing blow that he so deserves to do. Plus, with all the other members of Guts' group that he ends up having later on in the series, I think a lot of them would be even more nervous around the Doomslayer, because this dude is just intimidating as all hell. He's almost a level of intimidation beyond what even Guts gives off. And that's saying something, because Guts is no slouch when it comes to his intimidation factor. And especially if they witness the Doomslayer effortlessly tearing apart an apostle that is, extremely strong, that's either going to make them feel one of two ways, or both ways at the same time. Either absolutely terrified by his strength and be terrified of his aura and presence that he gives off in a battle, or extremely relieved that he's on their side. Or, as I mentioned, a mixture of both. Plus, I just can't even imagine the possible interactions between the comedic characters of Guts' group. Imagine Puck dealing with the Doomslayer. Just Puck having an interaction, a conversation with the Doom guy. Just the thought of the absolute towering monster that is the Doomslayer having a conversation with this tiny little fairy, that is absolutely comical to me.